I'm Staub, founder of the Wealth Blueprint Program. We're back today with our second segment of the Bootcamp series. Today's segment is going to take one of the pieces from yesterday and do a deep dive into what that means. So yesterday we talked about the personal hedge formula. Okay, and one of the components of that is asset class diversification, or otherwise known as investment type diversification. So we're going to take a deep dive today into the secret formula that we've been using here at the Wealth Blueprint to consistently beat the S&P 500, both on a return and a risk standpoint. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here to walk you through this. Again, so today we'll be going over the investment type diversification. Okay, and through this, I'll walk you through the formula. And so today we'll be going through these first four pieces. Obviously, the formula is the formula itself, and then the subcomponents are what you see there with the rentals, private money lending, and the all-weather strategy. Okay, so we'll be taking a deep dive into each one of those elements today. So the first one, the secret formula, and this is it. Right now, you can move around some of these as you see fit, but I personally use a 1/3 strategy, meaning I have a third of my assets in private money lending, a third of my assets in real estate rentals, and a third of my assets in what we call the all-weather strategy, which was developed by Ray Dalio, and we'll go into that later. Okay, now there's a reason that this formula is a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 fits all, right? Again, when you think about returns on your money, it's not just about the returns, it's about the risk, right? The stock market has the most risk out of any of these. Right? So we're trying to reduce the amount of volatility in your portfolio, but still get the ROIs or greater than that of the stock market. Okay, and this is how we do that. All right, in fact, here is our performance. If you look over the course of a 10-year period, and you look to the right there, you can see how we have a 1/3 weight to each one of these investment types. You can see the average return over a 10-year period, the highest being real estate rentals. Okay, and that comes from a variety of things, right? Cash flow, appreciation, tax benefits, and we'll show you that in the next slide here. Now, the deviation in real estate is the highest of the three, right? Meaning that the values of it can swing the most, but even still, just that class alone, that investment type alone, has lower deviation, lower volatility than the S&P 500. Okay, so really important point there is higher returns in real estate than the stock market, lower deviation. The next thing is private money lending, right? Really passive investment. And again, you can see here our average return has been around 13.6%, and there is no deviation. You're not seeing the values go up and down. It's a promissory note that you collect interest payments from. So there is no deviation. Okay. And then the all-weather portfolio. Again, this is the strategy by Ray Dalio that we'll go over. The average return just slightly beats the S&P 500, but the big thing here is that the deviation is almost 1/3 as much as the S&P 500. So substantially lower risk for just about the same amount of ROI. And so when you combine it all together, you can see that the average return over a 10-year period annually has been around 12.6% for this secret formula, with a deviation of just above 5%. S&P 500, you can see 9.4% with a 13.8% deviation. Now you're probably asking, how is it possible? We just had in 2019, we had a year of 30% ROI in the S&P 500. And that's true. But we've also had several of the years in the past decade where there was a negative return for the year or a 0% return for the year. And so the swings are substantial, right? And so over the course of 10 years, you can see that averages that out to around a 9.4% return. And this is kind of historical. Most people assume the S&P will earn somewhere between 9 to 11% throughout history. Okay. So the real estate investment type, I think when people think about real estate, they have all different views. I think if you're talking to someone who lives in the Bay Area, they're talking about the potential for appreciation. If you're talking about a property maybe in Detroit, you're probably talking about cash flow. And then if you're talking about any other, market, you usually get both. Okay, so the triangle is really made up of three components. Okay, now, and I'll go over these briefly. We do have another webinar that goes into why real estate rentals make sense and we take a deep dive into all of these, but at a high level, I'll just touch on these. The first one is cash flow and tax benefits. Pretty straightforward, right? If you buy a property with the right metrics, the right numbers, you're going to make cash flow each month. And usually that's between $200 to $400 a month after all your expenses are paid, mortgage, property tax, insurance, maintenance, all that. At the end of the month, you should be making between $200 to $400 per month on that property if you're buying the right properties. Again, New York, Seattle, Bay Area, probably not going to be cash flowing, okay? Tax benefits, huge, huge piece of why you want to own real estate rentals. When you own your primary residence, there are very few tax benefits. Mortgage interest can be one of them, right? But with the real estate rental property, they see it as an asset, right? As an asset that you can depreciate. So there's a lot more tax benefits that you realize from a number of other things that you can write off because it's a rental, right? And again, the one big one is depreciation. You get to depreciate your asset over a period of time, and each year that depreciation against your rental income. I mean, it's a beautiful instrument. In fact, Warren Buffett has a video saying, if he had a way to, a scalable way to manage 100,000 properties with all of his money, that's what he would be buying. The problem is he doesn't have that sort of scale, that sort of team to manage real estate rentals. So instead, he buys much bigger real estate projects. And so the next one is appreciation. Right now, it's hard to always bank on this. I think appreciation is often theoretical. In certain markets, you'll see it go up. Certain markets, it goes down. It really depends on the fundamentals of that market, right? But on average, if you look at many of the studies, it's fair to assume that the appreciation of a real estate rental will be somewhere between 3 to 5% annually in most markets. Now, in markets that are losing population, like Chicago, like parts of West Virginia, Detroit, those sort of places, you're probably not going to see appreciation, anything more than inflation. So again, it really comes down to which market you pick, but appreciation can be a nice little bonus in this triangle. And this other one that many people don't think about, which is just, again, another wonderful thing about real estate, is that if you have someone in your property paying you, let's say, $1,000 a month, right? And your operating expenses are, for easy math, $700 a month. And that includes your mortgage, your taxes, interest, all that, right? Well, you're not only making $300 a month in cash flow, but that tenant is also paying your mortgage. So the goal is to keep someone in there, make a little bit of cash flow, have them pay down your mortgage, and then in a period of whatever your mortgage is equal to, maybe it's 15, 20, 30 years, they would have paid off your house for you. So, and this is the beauty of real estate, is that you go in, let's say the property costs $100,000. You put down your 20% down payment, which is $20,000 in capital. At the end of the loan period, someone would have paid the remaining balance on that loan. So $100,000 purchase, $20,000 down payment, you have an $80,000 loan. The equity pay down, those tenants would have paid down $80,000 in loan value for you. And like that, it blows my mind that it's a no-brainer. It's leverage. You get a $100,000 property for $20,000. So you have a 5x leverage multiple on that. You get the cash flow and the tax benefits. Again, just a wonderful instrument. And then you get the upside and bonus of appreciation if it happens, right? So this is why you see back on the last slide, a 15% return, higher than the rest of the asset classes. They don't have the tax benefits that real estate rentals do. The appreciation is kind of its own thing within real estate rentals. It doesn't really happen in private money or the all-weather portfolio, right? So, and the pay down is also another bonus, kind of a different instrument. So again, that's why this is one of the asset classes that I like. Okay, and on top of that, real estate rentals tend to be a hedge in times of recession. Okay. So private money lending. This is another instrument that I discovered it several years ago, and I knew of it before, but I really started taking it seriously and putting more of my money into it when I realized, one, how passive it is, and two, just the fact that it can quickly diversify your portfolio and isn't really a hard instrument to understand. Okay. Now, what is private money lending? At a high level, private money lending is essentially you as the lender giving money to a borrower to do a project. And usually these projects are done on a 3-6 month basis. So the term of the agreement, or the promise or promissory note that you're giving them, so the money that you're giving them should be borrowed for no more than 12 months. Okay, so they say, hey, I need money to do a project. My goal is to have it turned around and sold in 4 months. What can you do for me? Well, that is a quick project. Borrowers come to you because they don't want to deal with a traditional bank. It takes time. It's slow. They have a really rigorous process that they vet every single deal. And so it's just easier to work with people that they know and trust. And for that, they're willing to pay a very attractive interest rate. Our program goes up to 11% interest paid each month, an additional 3 percentage points of interest paid up front. So, your annualized returns in this program can be anywhere between 14 to 17%. It's a really attractive program. And there's about 2 hours of work up front where you talk to the team, understand the project, review the contract notes. And if it all, ties out, you simply just collect interest payments. So a really passive investment, one of my favorites. And that's why this whole webinar exists today, because I'm introducing you all to this, right? But the easy way to think about it is essentially you are a bank and you are offering a mortgage to a borrower. And if they fail to pay you, that property becomes yours. So it's a collateralized debt and they're paying you a very high interest rate. Okay. And there's a number of ways that we make sure that it's a right deal. And in the next segment tomorrow, I will go through the ins and outs of private money lending. Okay. But there are 3 ways that you make money in this instrument. The first one is what we call points. And essentially what points are is it's a flat percentage that the borrower pays you upfront. Okay. So for example, a usual term might be 90% of the capital need is provided. So let's say a borrower needs $100,000 to do a project. They come to you and they say, hey, Joe, I need $90,000, right? And for that, I'm going to pay you 3 points up front, okay? So that's 3 percentage points. So 3 percentage points times $90,000 is $2,700. You would have earned $2,700 on day one of funding the loan, okay? So that's a main piece of how you get paid. The second way is really nice. Once you fund them the loan, then you begin to pay you interest payments until the loan's paid off. And that can range anywhere, our program goes down to as low as 8% up to 11%, right? So again, really attractive interest rates from the payments standpoint. And it's done ACH. And if they don't pay on time, there's a late fee. So very standard to a bank. And the third way, and probably the most difficult piece, is finding a trusted team. And again, I'll restate that. The hardest piece of the equation is finding a trusted team, right? It's not hard to do the math. It's not hard to transfer funds back and forth, and the deals sell relatively easy because they're done, in a new flip manner or a turnkey manner. The hard problem that I have come across is finding the right team to work with that you can trust, so that you know that your money's not at stake or risk. So finding the right team that can provide you deals every 3 to 6 months is pretty essential to be able to scale up this piece of your portfolio, okay? And again, we'll go more into this tomorrow in our next segment. Now, then the last one of this secret formula is what we call the all-weather strategy. And you can see there's Tony Robbins, and to the right of, or to the left of him, I guess, is Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is the creator, CEO, and managing partner of Bridgewater Associates, which is arguably the most successful hedge firm in the world. And so this strategy is what he created some time ago. And his thought behind it was, hey, look, I'm getting old, and this money will go into a trust for my family. And I'm not going to be around to manage it. So how can I guarantee that this portfolio grows with the least amount of risk and equal to or greater than that of the stock market? So essentially, he wanted a way to provide generational wealth to his family without him being here, right? And so what you see to the right are the key components of this strategy, right? So he has some that are tied to inflation or deflation or safety with the bonds, and of course the stock market. And one of the key components to this is that he considers not only the returns, but the risk, right? Or the volatility. The stock market has generally a 3x volatility multiple on most other of these items here, right? So he had to reduce the amount of stocks to reduce the amount of risk or volatility in his portfolio. Now, in times of inflation, right, people put their money in gold, or they'll put it into commodities depending on their strategy. And so he wanted to make sure that he captured both the deflationary and inflation part of the markets as well. So that's why you see gold and commodities here. And of course, for safety and stability of the portfolio, he wanted to have both long-term and intermediate term bonds in the portfolio. Intermediate term is 7 to 10 years. Long-term is obviously longer than 10 years. Okay, so that's the makeup of this of the strategy. And again, you can see that over a period of time, we have consistently beat the S&P 500 both on risk and return using this strategy. So, and by the way, anyone who comes to the webinar will get 2 tools, right? They'll get the first tool, which is the private money lending calculator. Pretty straightforward. But also, I'm going to provide the calculator for you to develop your own all-weather portfolio strategy. It's a way that you simply just put in the numbers and it'll calculate how you need to buy or reallocate your portfolio accordingly. So again, 2 free tools if you come to the webinar, which is in 2 days. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and hopefully this was a lot of value to you. Thanks.